Hey everybody, JP Hunt from InkSoft, and in this webinar we're going to dig into all things related to order fulfillment campaigns. So the title of today's webinar is Order Fulfillment Services, a Powerful Path to Developing a Competitive Advantage. Really excited about this topic. I think this is something that's super important now and will grow in significance into the future. All right, so with that said, let's get into the agenda. Here's what I hope to teach and communicate today. We're going to be talking about order fulfillment and really digging into the background of order fulfillment. We'll talk about the three types of order fulfillment and which type or combination of types is best for you and your business. We'll also talk about how you can monetize order fulfillment, and there's a few different perspectives to share here. Next, we'll talk about how you can pitch and present order fulfillment services and, of course, your capabilities in a way to win new business. Lastly, we'll do a deep dive and we'll talk about how to use InkSoft-powered online stores to really drive and facilitate these order fulfillment programs. So that said, let's get into the bottom line up front. And for those of you that have ever joined me for a webinar, or if you read any of my blog postings, I always like to start with bottom line up front, which is the most essential information I hope to communicate. And then I will intend in the rest of the webinar to give detail and perspective to support this thesis. So really the bottom line is simple. Order fulfillment is a total win-win for both you, the entrepreneur, and of course your customer. There's benefit and value to all parties, which I think really accelerates the need to adopt order fulfillment in your business. So your customers, as we'll go deep into customer benefits, they really get a standout, simple buying experience, and you get a competitive differentiation and a source of efficiencies. So the reality is this: just about everybody that's looking for decorated products, or promotional products, whatever it might be, they're also looking for a seamless, safe, fun, stress-free buying and fulfillment experience. So customers don't just want awesome decorated products, they want all the service and upside to go with it. And I think that's the real value of offering order fulfillment as a service. So let's dive into the background of order fulfillment and let's talk about the three main order fulfillment options or modalities, if you will. The first is known as merchant fulfillment. And so this really puts the seller in charge of the entire branded merchandise fulfillment process. So if I'm a business or a company or a brand and I'm looking to offer custom products to either my staff or stakeholders or maybe my customers, I'd be responsible for managing inventory and procuring products and distribution. And the reality is most brands and consumers today don't want to take on that extra labor. That's kind of an old school, outmoded way to handle order fulfillment, right? The next modality is third-party fulfillment, otherwise known as 3PL. So third-party fulfillment is where a seller directs all of the fulfillment activities and processes to a specialized third-party logistics company. And these companies specialize in inventory management, packaging, distribution, even handling things like, returns. So while that does help the brand or the company, reduce a level of overhead, there's still a cost associated. There's still a lot of moving parts in working with third-party fulfillment and logistic companies. And mind you, these third-party fulfillment companies are on a major growth streak right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's the case and why that's important in considering really leveraging order fulfillment as a service in a strong way. Lastly, we'll talk about drop shipping, and this is really the primary modality that we're going to encourage you to adopt. So what is drop shipping? This is where sort of end-to-end order fulfillment, where it reduces sort of expense and time and all the friction involved in getting goods directly to an end customer. So the reality is you, as the apparel decorator, as the print shop, as the promotional product distributor, you're really in charge of the entire process, collecting an order, processing orders, of course, shipping goods, managing inventory, doing all the decoration. So drop shipping is going to be the main modality that we'll use to go to market. Now, what I really want to point out is I think there's actually a bit of a synthesis here between merchant fulfillment and drop shipping. Now, specifically speaking, if you go to market and you actively advertise that you offer free online stores as part of your online order fulfillment program, that means you're handling the front end. You're handling all the payment processing, all of the order collection using an online store. So it's kind of the front end, handling the actual transaction and customer interaction. And then drop shipping really relates to a lot of the logistics sort of back end processes, right? Pick, pack, and ship. So the reality is you want to couple and leverage the opportunity of free hosted online order fulfillment stores, e-commerce stores. That's going to be an important part of your pitch and presentation, coupled with this notion of drop ship. So let's now move along and let's talk about some of the key benefits. And we'll start by talking about benefits to your customer. What do they get by taking advantage of your order fulfillment programs? Well, number one, they don't have to fuss with inventory management, of course, inventory handling, or any of the waste that may incur from inventory loss or shrinkage or wasted, spoiled inventory. So the reality is no consumer today wants to take on inventory and handle inventory if they can avoid it, right? A lot of organizations have leaned up and maybe they've trimmed staff. A lot of businesses aren't operating from their retail spaces or business, maybe their corporate offices. So the reality is now is an important time to really showcase how you can solve the inventory management problem. Now, of course, businesses that seek to leverage your order fulfillment programs can reduce their cost by eliminating any of the human capital or labor, maybe the warehousing and storage and sorting, everything that might be involved in being more hands-on, taking that merchant fulfillment route. And lastly, who doesn't want to take advantage of convenience, ease, and simplicity? This is driving a lot of consumer behavior. It's certainly what's accelerating and driving, e-commerce. So the reality is, your customers want simple, they want convenience. And this will harken back to the thing I mentioned with bottom line up front. Just about everyone looking to order decorated apparel or promotional products is looking for a seamless, safe, and stress-free fulfillment experience, right? So you got to couple that with the actual delivery. Now let's take a look at the upside to you, which actually run a bit deeper. So here's the benefits you get as the business, as the print entrepreneur, the decorator, the promotional product distributor. You get to exercise a very unique and a very strong and attractive competitive differentiator, right? And this allows you to attract new and highly qualified targeted customers. And what I mean, a lot of the businesses and brands that will be attracted to order fulfillment to help facilitate their marketing objectives and their branded, promotional marketing initiatives, those are organizations that have, solid marketing budgets. They spend year round. And once you attract them and integrate them as a customer, you're likely to keep and maintain them as a long-term profitable customer. So these aren't the transient, passive, place one order, you'll never hear from them again type of customer. These are the organizations that you can develop deep, meaningful relationships that you can even grow and foster over time. And we'll actually talk about that in just a moment's time. Now, the other consideration, given that a lot of these organizations will have reoccurring budgets, that renew, they have ongoing marketing needs. This helps you to develop a long-term outlook, right? A long-term reoccurring revenue stream as these businesses seek to, maximize their marketing spend on branded goods as vehicles to promote their brand, whether it be employee merch kits, whether it be thanking customers or a new customer welcome kit. A lot of businesses and brands are turning to these decorated products because it's a great way to, promote your brand, of course, generate goodwill and loyalty amongst customers and employees. So these programs tend to be frequent, right? Where there's a lot of demand for these products. So it's kind of a year-long effort. It's not just a purchase once. The sales cycle tends to be a lot different. Now, the next consideration, which I kind of pointed to earlier in terms of relationship development, the reality is an online store is sort of like a wedding ring, if you will. It's sort of the nexus of the relationship. I'm giving value to a customer, and that online store is servicing that customer in the relationship and making it automated and easy. So it allows me to not only develop the relationship by promoting this program, Order Fulfillment as a Service, but I get to maintain it and reinforce it with an online store as a simple way to access branded merchandise for different marketing events, right? So great way to develop relationships, maintain relationships using technology. Now, future proofing, I mentioned this when we first got started with sort of the background and the bottom line up front, but the reality is, third-party, logistics and fulfillment organizations are cropping up right now because, again, it mitigates the risk. It's allowing a business that specializes in distribution and logistics take care of all of that friction and nuance. A lot of companies are moving to this model, right? So third-party logistics, drop shipping, sort of order fulfillment at large is going to grow radically over time. By investing now and becoming an expert of order fulfillment, you are future-proofing your business against any kind of disruption from large organizations coming to market and trying to vie for your customer accounts. Now, the next consideration, which I think is an important one, is order data automation and the relationship to accuracies. And one of the business lessons I learned when I started my professional career was garbage in means garbage out. And you can apply that to so many different things, right? So if you have good quality electronic data coming in through online stores, and that's automatically positioned and accessible, and that results in more accuracies and efficiencies, it just creates a tremendous amount of value downstream in your operations. In particular, there's cost reductions via operational excellence and efficiencies, right? So if my team is spending less time, doing double order entry or typing in data to a third-party system, managing data, where there's mistakes that could be introduced, that just provides a lot of, again, efficiencies downstream, which makes big impact to the bottom line. So now that we have an understanding of the benefits to both the consumer, the customer, and of course you as the business, let's talk about how we can really leverage and monetize order fulfillment as a service. And there's a few different perspectives. And the first one I want to make sure that we contemplate here is, even if you didn't make a penny from order fulfillment services, if the only thing you benefited from was the ability to have a competitive differentiator and attract higher quality, long-term, recurring type of customers, that's enough. You're monetizing through lead generation, through competitive differentiation, through new customer adoption. But I think there's a few other perspectives here that we ought to explore. And there's really sort of three main monetization models as it relates to order fulfillment. The first being freemium, which is maybe you showcase to a customer, hey, our order fulfillment program, which is turnkey, it includes a custom e-commerce website. We do all the labor and all the work. It's a $499 one-time fee to initiate you into this program. What we're willing to do, because we really want to gain you as a customer, we're willing to waive that fee, provided you'll commit to getting started now. So really, you're presenting it with value, but you're giving that value back to the customer, so it's free. Now, you can't really do this with product because you have hard cost, but because technically it's easy to launch an online store using InkSoft, your overhead is dramatically diminished using InkSoft. Now, the next view here is fee-based. So contemplate, maybe you do charge a one-time initiation fee for order fulfillment. You're going to market with, hey, we offer a valuable program. It's going to save you time. It's going to make you more efficient. We're going to offer a great turnkey program where you're going to get amazing promotional goods for all of your marketing needs. The third consideration is a rebate type of model. And there's even companies in our space like Samar who will offer a year-end rebate, right, to trap a greater share of your spend, get more purchase commitment, stay top of mind. So maybe you can advertise and actively promote to your customers that, hey, we're going to give you 2.5% of all of your promotional merchandise spend, and we're going to apply that as a store credit for next year's activities. Or maybe you're going to do a cashback rebate. It's entirely up to you. I think the previous example of offering it as a store credit makes more sense. That's not necessarily the same sort of cost perspective as giving a cashback rebate. Now, the one thing to consider here is this isn't binary. You don't have to use one or the other. Really, you can sort of pair these together to get maximum value. And you can deploy these in different circumstances, right? Every customer engagement might be subtly different or unique, and you might choose to deploy a mix of these in different ways. So let me give you perspective on the three types of models you may consider. Number one, you may consider pairing a fee-based presentation with a freemium, meaning, hey, our fee is normally $4.99, but what we're going to do is we're going to provide that at no cost to gain your business. So I kind of already mentioned that one. The next consideration is fee-based plus rebate. So you might charge that fee of $4.99, but you might let your customer sort of recoup that once they hit a certain milestone or threshold of spend or maybe units processed. So it's a great way to demonstrate your value, really get clarity and get agreement on that value, but then rebate it back to make the client feel like it really isn't a fee and they can easily recoup that investment. Now, the next consideration is maybe a sort of a trifecta here where, again, we go to market with this program. We sell from a position of strength. This was another lesson I learned a long time ago. Selling from a position of strength, making it clear, like, we offer amazing quality products at fair pricing, and we don't discount because we've just added all the value we possibly can. So just eliminating that as sort of a, handling the objection before it becomes one. But again, being proud of your order fulfillment capabilities and service, you should monetize that, right? So going to market, here's our service, here's the value of that service. But hey, we're willing to reduce that once we have 100 orders transacted. And then you can also couple a year-end rebate. So you can kind of give a short-term perspective where, hey, we'll rebate the fee for the online fulfillment store and campaign that we manage end to end. But there's one other benefit here, is we do a year-end rebate of all of your spend to help your spend go even further. So you can actually pair all three of these together. There is no wrong way to do it. And it's probably going to be largely situational depending on the customer you're engaging with. Now let's talk about how the heck you can pitch and present order fulfillment services and your capabilities to be the expert and the partner to help your customers out. So there's a few tips here I want to break down. Number one is, of course, positioning the benefits and the value in the clearest possible way. And what I would encourage you to do, and I'll show you in a moment's time, where you can access the free marketing kit that our marketing team has constructed. And what we like to do with our marketing kits, which we produce on a monthly cadence, we put ourselves in your position and we pretend that we are going to market and pitching and presenting a program. And so we use the language we think would be most effective, the positioning that would be most effective, and we give different versions, different voices of it. So my first bit of advice is register for our free order fulfillment marketing kit. And that's your opportunity to take our best practice template messaging, and you can always modify it to get the tone and the voice to match your brand. But the reality is this is going to help you clearly position and present the values and the benefits to the consumer to gain their attention, to set up a consultation, to go deeper into the program. So step number one is just making the presentation, the proposition very clear. Next is making the steps in the process as clear as possible. And the goal here is to make expectations very clear. So the reality is, as we've mentioned, developing a long-term profitable relationship with these customers, we got to be very clear, be proactive, and do some pre-planning to establish this is what you can expect from us and make that very clear. We know that poor expectations tend to lead to poor customer experiences, right? So being very intentional with the product mix that's going to be present, the time frames in terms of processing and delivery, of course the costing that's involved, the billing schedule, reporting schedule for transparency purposes. So I would encourage you to organize your steps and process in maybe a standard way into a single page delivery. Make it graphical, make it very clear. This will be your way as you do, maybe get meetings or solicit a lead where you could deliver a very clear understanding of the program. And that program might be subject to modification, right? Maybe it's a very special customer. They have a very unique need or set of needs. You can always modify your standard offering to accommodate them. But again, if you're clearly communicating the core expectations up front, you're going to go on to build better customer experiences. Now, the next consideration, which we always talk about, is curating the product options that might be standard or it might be your go-to. So what I mean here is maybe you want to create a very crafted, meaningful, intentional array of different products that are going to be available when you're consulting clients in terms of order fulfillment. So consider, apparel, the different promotional items, different hard goods that you think would make sense. What's popular, what's trending, what do you know clients love, where do you get good feedback, inventory levels, profit opportunity. There's a lot of criteria and decision-making that's going to be involved in crafting the perfect go-to-market product mix, right? And of course, you can always consider very unique needs that customers might have and source products that fit those needs. But this is a great starting point to say, these are the products we know print well, our clients love, great quality, they check all these boxes, and that's what we're going to go to market and present first and foremost. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a bit of a transition. We're going to talk about how you can specifically use InkSoft-powered online stores to really facilitate all of the order fulfillment details, right? Ordering, seeing inventory levels, seeing what products are available. And there's a few different perspectives here. Oftentimes, these programs are directly B2B, so you're dealing with maybe the marketing director who needs a place to log in securely and request products to be shipped to different locations for promotional marketing purposes, right? It could be an HR department saying we have a new employee we're onboarding. We want a welcome kit going to that employee. We have a new customer that we've onboarded. We want a thank you gift going to that specific customer. So really, you can use an online store to handle those programs, which is directly interfacing with a business who is going to effectively use the online store to request and release inventory and products. And it could even be something like, sort of pre-COVID, right, where there was trade shows. Marketing manager needs to release giveaway items to a trade show and have them directly shipped to the trade show facility or to a sales rep's hotel room. The other side is how businesses will oftentimes want to interface directly with their consumers. And I'll give some examples of that as we go. So let's do this now. We're going to quickly transition into InkSoft, and we'll talk about using InkSoft online stores to really facilitate all of these order fulfillment programs. All right, everybody, here we are at an InkSoft powered online store, and we're going to use this as an example for our order fulfillment best practices. Specifically, how do you use InkSoft online stores to drive these order fulfillment programs? So the first consideration is we need to talk about accessibility. So oftentimes in some of these programs, it needs to be a password protected or a secure non-public online store. So one of the things I want to call out when you're building an online store in InkSoft, one of the questions we'll greet you with is, should the store be public? That means any consumer with the link can access the store and purchase products from the store. It's public. Or should it be set to private? Which means when I visit the online store, I will be greeted immediately with a password protected prompt where I have to enter the password in order to access and visualize and see the online store. So if you're working with, again, a corporation, or you're doing a B2B program where only the marketing manager, marketing team interacts, it's not a public-facing website, making sure that your e-commerce platform has the capabilities of making a store private and password protected is certainly a best practice. Now, the next consideration is website, web store, e-commerce security. This is a best practice, an absolute must. So every store in InkSoft, and in fact, every page in InkSoft's ecosystem is secured and encrypted. So what that means is all the data in the browser that's being transmitted back to the server is encrypted, and that means that there cannot be exploits, or there's no risk of data being expunged or taken away from that browser session. So with that said, inside of InkSoft, you have the ability to establish a custom SSL certificate. Or you can, and you can even configure a custom domain name. So let's talk about two things here for a moment. This kind of relates back to accessibility, like where does the organization, locate their online store? But what you can do inside of InkSoft, let's say you're dealing with a big corporation, let's say Tesla, and Tesla wants to do a branded merchandise program for certain unique marketing events, right? And because Tesla wants to maintain governance and domain and control over their branded, assets. This is a very common thing with corporations, mind you. Maybe they hand you a website address they want to use for their online store. So it's possible in InkSoft to apply a custom domain name for every online store. So I could do shop.tesla, promo.com, and then effectively I can give instructions back to Tesla where they can then configure their domain name to and associate it to this online store. So it's possible to give your customers added value in security and protection and governance. Depends on how big the organization is and their security priorities. But effectively, you can allow them to maintain governance over the domain name, or you can choose to offer a hosted store on your domain name. There's really two choices there. And additionally, you can choose to either use a free SSL certificate in InkSoft, or you can purchase a custom SSL certificate. And what an SSL certificate does is that's what's responsible for encrypting that website browsing and shopping session with the communication with the web server. And so again, there's free options in InkSoft, and then there's premium options. Now I want to point out that some of the premium options come with cyber insurance, in case there's fraud or malware. Also the green bar that displays to really promote actively that this is in fact a secure online store. So there's just some subtle nuance and features that are available from the different SSL providers. So with that said, best practice is make sure that your e-commerce platform Every single page must be secure. A lot of e-commerce platforms will only secure, what they believe to be sensitive areas like a login page or the checkout process. But it's best practice to have every single page secure, and in InkSoft that is the case. Now let's talk about different payment methods, right? Because there's different programs that are available here. So what I'm going to do now is toggle to checkout settings. And inside of each online store, you can configure a unique array of different checkout and payment settings. Now, in some cases, if you're dealing, again, B2B with a marketing manager with a password-protected store, maybe you've agreed to a single invoice program whereby you'll send one invoice at the end of the month for maybe for the monthly activities, right? So with that said, you might not want to prompt that marketing manager to make payment every time they log in and want to request and distribute, branded merchandise, right? In some cases, and it's a best practice, maybe the customer pays for all the promotional products in advance, but you're offering an online store to manage inventory and do all the distribution and shipping. So payment, technically, they've already paid and they own the products. You're warehousing, storing, and distributing those products. So in some cases, it's not appropriate to ever prompt for payment. So in InkSoft, for every online store, you can make payment required. So if I'm dealing with a B2C opportunity, of course I want to require payment from every consumer. I can make payment optional where they could choose to pay, or they could arrange payment later, where I'll collect monies outside of the system. Or I can disable the payment prompt altogether. They won't even be prompted for payment, right? The other option is you can choose to allow a consumer to check out with a purchase order. And you can make that from anybody that has accessed the store, or you can tether that to specific users that have permission to check out with a purchase order. And one step further, you can choose to require or make optional the attachment of an actual purchase order. So if you want to get a receipt, you want to get proof of future payment, which the purchase order will seek to do, you can choose to allow a consumer to check out with a PO where they can type in the PO number, and optionally, or you can require that they actually attach the physical PO, which will bind to the order. So it's your choice and your preference. Maybe this depends on the relationship you have with the client. One other thing I want to call out here is the ability to accept coupon codes and gift certificates. Now, mind you, you can enable or disable this at each store, and you could choose to, again, choose whether it does display in the checkout process or not. But effectively, a lot of businesses do very unique, promotional marketing campaigns, and I'll give you an example of one. And this is actually an example that we use in a forthcoming marketing kit that we're about to release about how you can facilitate, pitch, and promote gift, reward, and incentive programs. And there's actually a lot in relationship to order fulfillment, and order fulfillment is involved in those programs. Now, I don't want to steal all of my thunder from this forthcoming marketing kit, but I want to point out an example of how coupon codes and gift certificates can play directly into these order fulfillment campaigns. So Peloton, who manufactures spin bikes and treadmills, and of course they have a subscription model whereby you can take live instruction from your home for spin classes or running. Really successful public company, billion-dollar organization. Well, they do a really cool branded merch program, and they do it to help celebrate success with their customers. So it's called the Century T-shirt, the Peloton Century T-shirt. When you, as a new Peloton customer, you realize your 100th Peloton spin bike ride, and I believe they do the same with the treadmill. When you complete your 100th run, you get a free exclusive T-shirt. Now, the funny thing is, Peloton's done something really clever. You can buy the T-shirt for $100,000. So if you want to cheat and you're not going to put in the work, you can buy the T-shirt. It's $100,000, and of course they do that to be playful and sort of get some viral uplift, right? But the reality is, when you complete your 100th ride, you get a little certificate with a coupon code that gives you a 100% discount to buy that shirt, right? So it discounts that $100,000 shirt down to zero, and that's your reward for being a loyal customer, and they gamify the whole program. So you can see how a coupon code or a gift certificate can have a ton of application to let your customers do unique marketing programs to their end customers. So again, online stores can service dealing directly with a business administrator for a brand or a company, letting them interact with merch and getting merch released, consuming merch. But also you can empower that brand to extend their branded merch directly to consumer. And look at the Chipotle merch as an example. It's branded merchandise that Chipotle is offering directly to their super fans, right? So that's kind of the two models at play. Okay, so let's talk about one other consideration here that's super important, which is one of InkSoft customers' favorite features, which is custom order fields. This is your ability at each and every one of your online stores to collect extra data that could be critical for logistics, for billing, for decoration. Now you can collect this data at the product level. So you could do a program whereby you're collecting, select your employee department, and your employee department will be monogrammed or embroidered directly below, your name patch or whatever it might be. But in the checkout process, you can also collect extra data. Now let me give you an example of how handy that can be for order fulfillment campaigns. So it's not uncommon for a business to track and allocate, marketing budget by department, right? And maybe the accounting, department for the business that you're dealing with, they need a report that breaks down the spend by division, by department, so they know how to sort of, allocate those costs and that budget. So with that said, if that's a requirement to make this program a success, InkSoft can allow you to get that information. So you can have a required checkout field that says promotional spend allocation. Please select the department to allocate spend, to, or whatever it might be. You could list the departments, and here's a preview of that. So when checking out, the marketing manager would have to make a decision. Hey, I'm requesting, merch that we're going to, use for X program, and that's going to apply to business development, or that's going to apply to advertising and marketing. And so you can trap that data. You can have that inbuilt with different reports, so you can easily get that information back to the accounting team. And if the accounting team is happy and they're getting the information they need to, sort of allocate all the spend, then, that's an important sort of influencer and decision maker as part of that program. If it's a disaster and you're not communicating and getting them the information they need, well, they probably will advocate switching to a different platform. So, but there's other use cases here. Again, for logistics, does this need to be packaged in a specific way? You could solicit any other kind of information necessary to let your clients, again, mitigate friction and phone calls and emails, and keep communication centralized. And again, data automation, like we talked about earlier, right? So the next consideration I want to talk about here is as it relates to the different products that are on offer. And so what I want to point out that InkSoft offers a very unique ability as it relates to administering inventory at the size and style level. So many e-commerce platforms are negligent of they see everything as one SKU, and they don't see that you could have variables like one t-shirt could have different sub-SKUs, like different styles of garment, so a white, a black, and a red, and different sizes. So InkSoft considers, when you click on, I navigate to a product and I go to pricing and styles, I can say enforce for my inventory, and this is where I can instantiate and put in my on-hand inventory at the size and style level. So this is important because, as mentioned earlier, oftentimes if your corporate client wants mugs and different promotional products as part of their branded merchandise campaigns, well, they're going to prepay for those, right? So you can establish the starting inventory of different promotional goods, and you can maintain those at the size and style level. And this helps with transparency, right? This is going to help administer the program. So as you save these size, style levels, so I'll go ahead and save and publish that for small, or extra small and small. So I'm only going to do 2. So you can input all of the starting inventory levels. And I'll point out one other crucial setting here. When you go to the online store and you go to product display settings, this is where you can choose to display the available inventory, and you can specify the inventory threshold. So let's say you have 1,000 units. Maybe it's silly to display that you have 1,000 units on hand. Maybe you only want to activate and display inventory when you reach a critical level, like 100. So you could choose at what point do you want to display inventory, and you can make that eligible or available here. In this case, I'll just keep this at 600 so I can show you how the products will, in fact, the inventory levels will display on the online store. So with that said, if we go to the storefront now and a marketing manager has logged in, I believe I established inventory in this particular product. So the reality is I can then see inventory levels again at this color, size level. And you can see here 500 left, 542 left. And let me give you one more example of an inventory level, say for a hard good. And again, this is an important sort of transparency consideration because they own that inventory. You're managing that inventory. So it's really crucial that you, in fact, display accurate inventory. And of course, this goes back to the expectations, agreeing upon when inventory needs to be refreshed. So hey, when we get down to 50 of these computer briefcases, we're going to replenish with another 500 units. So it's easy for you to go in and look at the inventory on hand and just add the new stock to that. So again, inventory management, live on-hand inventory is reflected in InkSoft online stores. All right, so there's one more thing I want to share with you in today's webinar, and that's where you access the marketing kit that we've talked so much about. So let's now toggle to inksoft.com, and let's talk about the marketing kit that's available for order fulfillment. All right, so here we are at inksoft.com. I want to point out, if you click resources from the topmost navigation, you'll notice here you can easily toggle between the InkSoft blog, customer success stories. I want to draw your attention to marketing kits. This is where we are now warehousing all of the marketing kits that we produce. So be sure to visit here where you can access the order fulfillment marketing kit. So if you click on one of these titles, you'll kind of see a breakdown of the strategy. You'll see an index where you can navigate directly to the marketing kit. Sometimes we even include graphical assets or other tools that you can leverage. But the reality here is, when you go to the register for the marketing kit, you'll get immediate access to a Google Doc that has all of the marketing copy and content that we've authored. Now, again, we're on a very exciting run. We're releasing one of these marketing kits per month. They're free, professionally written copy that you can take and you can email your customers to promote, hey, we're now offering order fulfillment as a service and here's the benefits. You'll contact us for a free consultation. Social media messaging to take to social to promote this program. Website copy, if you want to use your InkSoft-powered online site that you're using as your primary business website, there's a great way to use the InkSoft lead generation tool, coupled with a call to action and some key messaging to say, we offer turnkey order fulfillment programs to create a stress-free, whatever it might be. So again, definitely take advantage of these. Stay tuned to these because we're doing these on a monthly cadence, and we've gotten some amazing feedback, and we've seen examples of how these are really, really paying off. And at the same time, I'll make one final point. When you're at the resources at inksoft.com, you can also click on webinars where you can register for our webinars, and we're doing multiple webinars every month. Typically, we tie our webinars to these topics. So you can read the strategy, we can go a bit deeper in a webinar, and then of course you have the marketing kit that you can leverage. Well, folks, we certainly thank you for plugging in and choosing to join us for today's webinar. My hope is that you learned at least one or two new things that you can integrate into your business for more positive revenue growth and profit growth, customer development. We do believe order fulfillment is going to be a major strength for those that choose to invest in it. Again, future-proofing. There's already a tremendous investment in order fulfillment and third-party logistics and order fulfillment and drop shipping. It's happening in consumer products, and a lot of traditional businesses are going away from managing their own inventory and distribution and fulfillment. They're shrinking their spaces and delegating that to another organization, paying a fee to do it. So invest in order fulfillment now. Become disciplined and become an expert now, because it's going to be important over time and you don't want to be susceptible. So that's really the motivation. Plus lead generation, developing new customers, all the positive things we've talked about. So we hope that you get to market successfully with this program and you get great results. And we'd love to hear your feedback. And you can always channel your feedback directly to me, jphunt@inksoft.com. So if you have stories about how you're using order fulfillment or maybe perspective that I didn't share today, I'd love to hear from you one way or the other. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining and have a great afternoon.